Welcome to Metaphysical Soul Speak. I'm your host, Elena Fox Starks. Hey guys, I hope you're doing really well in this moment in time and that you had a good weekend. I know today has been really rough for most of us. Pretty much everyone I talked to had a problem with all the celestial events. In fact, for the past 3 to 4 days has been extremely hard. So I want you to pay attention to your emotions and your levels of happiness or lack thereof and your moodiness. Has it happened for you? I'm not sure that it affected everybody, but pretty much everyone I talked to have been affected. I'm going to start with I'm going to get through some of the astrology stuff, and then I'm going to get into space weather, and I'm going to take a break so that you guys can hear something with the space weather directly from the sun, because usually when the sun has a solar burst, we don't hear it, we don't see it, we can measure it with instruments. But on Sunday, the sun put out a radio wave burst. And I mean, I felt it throughout my body. I felt sick all day yesterday. When I heard it again today, it put me right back into how I felt yesterday. So I'm going to play that for you guys in a few minutes. It's been a doozy. I told you on Thursday I was going to do Friday's show early and jet out, go to the beach, have fun with my kid. And none of that happened. I was home all weekend. I felt absolutely sick all weekend, and yet I don't have a virus. I don't have a bacterial infection. I've been kind of sick with asthma and on prednisone, but that usually I feel like running a marathon when I'm on prednisone, when I have to do that. And not at all have I felt good this weekend. I felt like I was absolutely, completely, totally sick. And I don't know why. It could be that I'm feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders as an empath. I know that I've been taking on some stuff from my near twin flame in California. I've been comforting him and talking to him all day. Like 8 years ago, he broke my heart, and 7 years ago, I left the country, and a month later, he called me, and he was crying on the phone to me, saying he wishes we were together. Blech. Like, yeah, I listened to you for a year telling me all the reasons why I'm not good for you, or not the right one for you, even though I was good for him, and he helped me through a hard time, and we weren't meant to be together. He was right about that, but it's kind of funny that when he's like begging me to come back to California, he had just started dating this person who I think really is his twin. And so they broke up in a big way in the past few months and went through the Paradise Fire together. Almost lost the lives of her several children, her and him. They were in a car stuck in single lane traffic for like, I don't know what he say, like 45 minutes or something. Not sure they were going to live. And they went through that horrible thing together. And then being homeless for several months and didn't have anything but the shirts on their backs in their car. And all the charity they had to outpour to give to them. And so like they went through this massively horrible thing together. And a lot of people just, after you go through a massive thing like that, you either double down, get closer than ever, and everything turns out really well, and that becomes a greater plateau in the foundation of your relationship, or it all totally falls to shit. In his case, it fell to shit. So, It's just always, I mean, I saw it over and over again in the Northridge earthquake, people who couldn't get anything together, couldn't get their life together to save their lives, and then almost losing their lives in the earthquake. My friend and his neighbor, the wall between their houses fell down, and when the wall fell down, like their hearts just opened up to each other. They had never met before, and they lived together, lived in next door to each other for like 3 years. Absolutely fell in love in a heartbeat, and I'm sure they're still together. They were absolutely in love. I met her like 5 or 6 years later, and we just absolutely were mad for each other, became very good friends, and he and I had always been really good friends. So, but I've seen it again and again, where disaster just will bring you together or tear you apart. I remember I was driving during the Northridge earthquake, and this man, this really, like, he was a man that he looked like he had been always neat and put together his whole life. And when I saw him, I think he was missing a shoe, and he had holes in his sock because he'd been walking a while, and his really nice, expensive Italian suit was really disheveled and dirty. His tie was all askew. His hair was a mess, and he was crying his heart out walking down the street. And I'm like, dude, can I give you a ride somewhere? Because what the hell, are you okay? Random stranger off the street right after the Northridge earthquake hit. I lived on the epicenter. It was a 6.8. And he got in my car, and he's like, why are you picking up a stranger? I go, I pretty much just lost everything. Do you think it's going to freaking matter if I lose my life at this point? And he's like, yeah, it's a good point. I just lost everything. My wife just left me. Because the earthquake, she said she realized she didn't want to be with me anymore, So, I mean, I've seen it time and again, no matter what the disaster, no matter what the circumstance, it's just, it's make it or break it time, and that's one of those things. And the whole wide world is, we're in an international crisis with this coronavirus. It's gotten worse. The numbers that they were reporting even just last week are completely false. I didn't realize that the numbers that had been reported, there weren't enough testing kits in the United States, and the ones that they did have were either giving false positives or weren't working at all. They did not know how to handle the crisis or the disaster. What did I report? Like only 22 deaths and 60 cases. I had reported on Friday, and now it's in 34 states in the United States, and they don't know what they're doing. One of the people that came out speaking against it, saying not against it, but saying that it's okay and contained. He just died. He's in the government. We're in an international crisis with that. In other countries, as you know from my report on Friday, they're in crisis too, like big time crisis, like with floods. We didn't have so much the reports of the locusts this last week, but a lot of the floods. And I even read somewhere today there's hail in Israel. Never hails there, but massive hail there. Hail, not hell, but same difference, I guess. And then on top of all that, just this crap of the moodiness. And like we were hit on like the 5th or the 6th with solar winds. We were hit, I think, on the 7th again on Saturday with solar winds. There's like the second wave of it. And then on the 8th, we were hit with this solar radio burst that just, this is the only sunspot. The first one we had in like 34, 35 days. And it hits us with this massive burst that just, I don't know, guys, I am still emotional from it, like really, really emotional. When I heard the clip I'm about to play for you guys, it really freaked me out because I heard that sound in my brain yesterday, and it just was like, it just unleashed all this stuff. So it's bringing more stuff to the surface. So if this is happening for you guys, this is a massive ascension symptom. I know I'm in the fifth dimension, but just because I'm in the fifth dimension doesn't mean I can't feel sadness. And same thing with you. You might be also in the fifth dimension. We're all kind of in the beginning stages of that, still moving our way up, you know. But there's been some massive shit going down. Just, it's been really incredible. So I'm going to go over some of it with you right now. Let's see. First of all, Mercury has been retrograde, okay? It has been retrograde for 3 freaking weeks, and it finally went direct today in Aquarius, which is a very emotional sign. So basically it says Mercury stations direct, and it's another challenging aspect to the moon. Moon always means emotional shit too. So carries on to the Mercury retrograde theme of conflicting feelings and moodiness. This is according to astrologically.com. Moon quincunx sounds dirty. Moon quincunx Mercury still causes internal conflict between your thoughts and your feelings. Also gives the ability to find a balance, which is good because I'm searching for that still, baby. While it may still be hard to put your thoughts into words, there will be moments of emotional stability and calmness in which you can see things more clearly. Take advantage of the mental clarity you find to find your compromises and to reach your firm decisions. Yeah, in those moments, in the moments of stability. You know, I have had a couple moments in the past hour, I would say, and it's almost 3 a.m. I'm getting this out super late. I've had a freaking day, so I'm going to keep going with this. Today, before I get too far into this, I want to say, in case she ever hears this episode, I love my oldest child so much, and I have so much love and appreciation for her that I don't think she'll ever understand or fathom how deep my love for her is. But today was her 20th birthday. I cannot believe I gave birth for the first time 20 years ago tonight, after 26 hours of labor on the nose to the second, actually. 26 is a very special number as it refers to Hebrew. I forgot what it means now. It's not even. I think that's 40. 40 and 26 and 32 are very special numbers, and 26 was a very powerful number for me in my life. Especially, I was studying Western Kabbalah and the Holy Tarot at that time. But anyway, she turned 20 today. She just passed her SATs. She got 12 questions wrong out of all of her SATs. That's it. 12 questions wrong. That's it. You know, she passed 8th grade math. She passed 8th grade math when she was 7 years old. I taught her algebra when she was, 4.5 before she was 5. She was really, really good at math. And then as an adult, I think a little bit angry at me because I didn't keep her in school. But why? She already passed everything. She'd already written her first, ghostwritten her first book by the time she was like 13 or 14, something like that. Didn't even tell me about it. I didn't find out about it till she was 15, and she'd already written 3 or 4 ghostwritten books, and a couple of them I saw on Amazon. The kid's a genius. I'm not taking credit for it. I did my best to make sure my kids would have everything, but she came here as a genius. She's an incredible person. She decided to be, that she was trans and went through the hormone changes for like a year and a half and decided recently, no, I think I'm gender fluid, but I'm going to remain a female. Cool. I support her decision in all things. And anyway, I'm just grateful. I mean, my kid's going to go into Greenpeace in May and next for 6 months, and then in the fall attend university for quantum physics. I mean, she's doing really well. And I'm so grateful for that. So I've been really emotional all day about that. It's just, I miss my kid. I haven't seen her in 2 years almost. And it's hard to live in a separate country from your child. But, you have to move on at some point when you're, young and growing up. And that's cool. I get that. And I'm grateful for it. But it's hard, There's all these things going on with all the people around me. The only interactions I've had with people all weekend have been very long, very monotonous, very stressful. Except for my youngest son. He and I have been getting along great. But just all my friends have contacted me, have just needed absolute deep emotional support and healing. Everyone I talk to says, I have no one. I'm alone and I'm so sad. And I just need a hug. I just need someone to hold me. I mean, it's how I've been feeling, and I didn't tell a single person that, and yet everyone I talked to this weekend told me various, variations of that, and I feel like we're all going through that right now. So if you could just, in this moment, just put your arms around yourself and just hug yourself and know that I love you. Ask Gaia to hug us. I was crying yesterday for like 5 hours. I couldn't sleep. I just had bad insomnia after that solar burst and was absolutely just heartbroken, laying here heartbroken. Not sure I have a future, hoping I do, but not sure. And it's the uncertainty that's killing me as a Virgo that wants to be knowing everything in advance. No surprises. I hate surprises. And I literally felt the energy of Mother Earth Gaia without even asking her. She was here. I felt her arms around me. So I want you just to put your hand over your heart and take a couple breaths and know that she's with you. Even if your earthly mother has passed like mine have, your Mother Earth is always with you. I know that I miss all my family and all my friends have died, and it's like been so overly emotional for days. I can't stand it. I want to get back to my normal happy-go-lucky self. It's just been really bad. It's been like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, but not in a good way at all since like Thursday, Friday. I did find out, though, I did talk to you guys on Friday about the pollution, the sewage that had been dumped into the ocean, and I found out what that was. And because we had so much rain in such a short time in Ecuador, in Salinas, all the rain washed away all of the junk from the cars on the roads, and it all poured into the ocean, and it was just this thick black tar from the oil that had been on the roads. So the roads are clean there, but then that beach is absolutely contaminated and polluted now. It'll dissipate in a while, but now I just won't be going to the beach for a while. And plus, now with the coronavirus being so freaking out of control, that's just going to be a no-go for me for quite a while. I don't see myself going anywhere near that town. I'll wait till the whales come, and I'll go look for the whales like in the fall or something, but it's just crazy. Maybe I'll go to Yingia next weekend and try to get my mind back to myself, with my kid. I found an amazing eco lodge where they do need volunteers who do spiritual things like I do, so I might see if I can't go over there for 2 weeks and just offer my hypnotherapy services and see what's going on there. Just see these people, kind of get in touch with these spiritual people. I just found out about them like 2 days ago, and I was just heartsick that I couldn't go down there. But I've had all day, for 3 days, I've been absolutely sick, but not sick at all, no infection, but lung stuff. And then tonight was sinus and super dizzy. Yesterday was I can't even remember now, but it was every day it was my body was mimicking a terrible illness that I didn't even have, and I don't know why. So if you're an empath, I've been trying to purge it out all day. I had an emotional attack from a very evil, narcissistic person. He had sent it a long time ago, like this horrible message, but I didn't read it, and then I accidentally opened it thinking it was something else, and I didn't read the whole thing. I just read a couple things. It was very venomous and poisonous towards me, and I felt an energy with it, like an energy bomb, and have only ever experienced that with his messages, so I had to delete and block him, but from the social media platform that I was on, but took me hours to get over that, and I had like a tear in my aura from it. It was really horrible. He meant to hurt me, and he has an uncontrolled magic he doesn't even know about, so I had to get rid of that. It was crazy. And I would have been completely ready for something like that, and wouldn't have affected me if I had been so overly emotional for the past 3-4 days. So it's just like one of those things. I mean, Art Bell was attacked over and over again when he had his show for many years from various things, from various angles, like hate groups, and had his life threatened repeatedly. So many things, so I know it happens when you get, well known. I'm not even well known, hardly at all. But, I guess if it's happening early, I guess I should toughen up my outer aura, my shell, my light warrior shell. I don't know. It's been crazy, you guys. I don't know. I hope that you guys are okay. I really honestly do. All right. So let me get more into this, because this was a really good article from astrologyking.com. The Mercury direct phase gives a chance for you to pause and reflect before saying something you might come to regret. New information will become available, and you will look at things from a different perspective. This helps you make up for any mistakes during the retrograde phase and resolve any relationship problems. So, I'm looking at the Mercury direct event chart that he has here, and everything is above the surface, but the one part that is below the surface is the moon in Virgo. And in 26 degrees Virgo, I just noticed that. And that's good. We don't have a whole lot hidden. We've got a few things, but Uranus, Venus, and then what looks like the South Node in Pisces is hidden. But a lot more stuff is coming to the surface. It's all rising up. So I see like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 aspects, including the North Node of, I don't even know what that is, Chiron, I don't know. So we have most of the aspects are above. Even Pluto, planet of limitations, all of it, Mars, everything's above the surface. And I'm not an astrologer. I barely get this stuff, but I do know that is positive, because everything's rising up and everything's at the surface, so we can let it go. We can take a good look at what we're going through, what we've been going through, where we're lacking, what we've done wrong, how can we make it up to ourselves and others. So basically, the retrograde zone will be fully gone. Mercury will leave that zone on March 29th. So we still have like 20 days. If you are a Virgo, if you are a Gemini, if you've got heavy Virgo and Gemini in your chart, even if you're a different star sign, there's a chance it's still going to affect you. So be careful. Be careful with travel. See, travel plans. What did I have just this weekend? Oh my God, travel plans that didn't go through. Freaking Mercury retrograde. Says, just as with Mercury retrograde, the Mercury is square the moon. This time, it's the opposite degree at 12 Gemini 41. I'm not going to read all that to you because I don't totally get it, but it does say the moon conjunct fixed star Aldebaran is similar to Antares, oh, my beautiful star that went supernova, with the moon, but more favorable. And it's good for domestic, public, and religious matters, business, honor, and credit. That's good. That's good. I started doing some business things I meant to for a long time with my Instagram. I just added Instagram, by the way, guys, again, to my tablet. I had it on my phone, which is dead because I need a new battery. That doesn't exist in Ecuador, so I've got to import for like $35. I got to import a $5 battery. Unfreaking believable. Anyway, basically, though, I just added like 4 brand new posts, which are meant to inspire you guys. And I decided these are the kinds of posts I'm going to do from now on. At Mermaid Girl 888 is my feed, and I'll still add my spiritual stuff, and I have pictures of crystals or my little duende. And God bless her, I charged her up in the full moon as the full moon rose today. Full moon here was big and yellow, so beautiful, so classic yellow full moon. Like, in fact, I did a post that looks like the moon a little bit, and that's what my moon looked like here. So I did the post during the day, and then all of a sudden I look outside when the sun went down, and I'm like, oh my God, just like my post. So I said happy full moon day, Monday. Perfect timing for that one too. So there's that. Let's see here. I'm trying to see if there's anything more to this one. You guys already know what Mercury retrograde is for the most part. So that's what it is this time. It was just, besides the typical, travel delays, verbal crap that happens, this is the riskiest time for decision-making, negotiations, communication, even transport, any kind of travel. Everything's delayed. Everything breaks down. Technology is just like the crappiest time to get anything done. The best thing to do during these aspects are basically when you have art projects that you haven't done and you meant to do. It's a really good time to just go back to your art. Go back to a book you were reading. Finish old projects up. Get back to things that you meant to do. Talk to old friends that you haven't talked to in a while. Enjoy life. Hang out at home. Have a glass of wine with friends. Watch movies you haven't seen or TV shows you meant to watch. Go out with friends. Just really relaxed things, but nothing major. Never start anything new, because when you start something new, it becomes undone. When Mercury goes direct, and it just went direct today, but again, if it's affecting your chart for the next 3 weeks, be very careful in starting new projects. My son and I are trying to start our new cookie business. We decided that we wanted to go sell cookies at the campus, the university. I told my son I have a secret hope that maybe I'll meet a hot professor who's single, who might find me attractive and interesting or something, or at very least like my cookies and ask me out on a date. Maybe I can make new friends that way. And my son's hoping he can make acquaintances and friends and have intelligent conversations with people. Here it's so, because I'm like, it's just so hard. Like, where do you go to meet intelligent people? I mean, definitely not in a bar, and there's not a whole lot of places to go. I've gone to like performances, like dance performances, and you just don't, everyone goes with their people and they ignore the other people there. I've gone to musical performances and opera performances and performances by famous people that worked on Broadway in New York, and they live here now and they're doing shows. Awkward as hell performances, some of them, but I've gone to concerts, but like no one really like goes out of the way to talk. It's very weird. I'm not used to that. When I was in Chico, California, and I went to the Friday night concerts in the park, I always met people everywhere. I mean, every 20, 30 minutes I would meet someone new. People would ask me out. People would be like, hey, what's your sign, baby? What are you doing? Whatever. They would just say the weirdest shit, but we would end up being like friends, and it was comfortable, right? And at least in the States, there's like meetup.org, but there's like, that's not even, or meetup.com, it's not even here. There's like 3 groups that started 3 or 4 years ago, and that's it. There hasn't been anything new. And I don't really, so I'm thinking, I want to start this. We've been working on our recipes. I perfected my oatmeal raisin cookie recipe, and we're still arguing about the chocolate chip recipe. We're still arguing about the name of the business, and we just blurted out a bunch of possible names yesterday for like 2 hours. It was super fun, laughing our heads off at some of the silly ideas we came up with. But I'm still like, it's Mercury direct just only right now, so we're still working on the recipes. We're trying to figure out what's going on with the virus and the path it's going to take, the path of the pathogen. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? How are we going to make it very sanitary for people? And so we're still working on a lot of the details, and we have to still go get our business license to actually sell cookies, and we're trying to decide, do we also want a route, and where are we going to take the route? And it's cool because, though, even though in like the United States you cannot make cookies in your home and sell them legally, like practically anywhere except at a school bake sale. Like grade school bake sale is about the only place you could kind of get away with it. But here in Ecuador, just people make stuff in their house all the time, sell it on the street. And no, I don't think really hardly anyone says anything. If you do it downtown, they make you have a license. But so I'm still going through all that. I'm just still like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this? So I'm trying to make something in my life that I look forward to every day. It's super simple. It'll be super fun. It'll be a reason to get up in the morning and go rushing off somewhere. I haven't had a job because of the conditions of the death benefits for 10 whole years. I have not been able to hold a job without losing all the money, and I couldn't find a job that would have paid more than the money, and I didn't want to go away from my kids. So also I couldn't have a relationship. I couldn't have a serious relationship leading anywhere, and plus I didn't want to bring another man in, like seriously, around my kids, like, and pretend like that's your dad. It's like, so everything in my life is at this conjunction, and then here we have this Mercury, the full moon, then the Mercury retrograde going direct, and this is like the beginning of the rest of my life this year. My son turns 18 in October. All the money goes away, and so we're like, all right, let's start a cookie business. And he's like, I'll either keep it with you and we'll start a restaurant together, or we will, or he'll leave and I'll have a cookie business and a cookie route by myself. Not really sure what's going to happen. He doesn't know. We're still like, I don't know. We'll see how it goes though, right? So I don't even know. If he leaves, I might just go back to California. I've been invited to New York. I may go there. I don't know. So anyway, but today is there's so much going on. The full moon is in Virgo, and I want to read to you guys what this means, because this is the beginning of the moon. It's not the new moon. I guess it's kind of the middle of the moon cycle. I consider it the beginning, because to me it's like, yeah, it's at full power today. So the full moon in Virgo, which is so lovely, has a general positive influence, but there are potential challenges to be aware of. This is according, again, to astrologicking.com. The full moon, March 2020, is opposite Neptune, can cause confusion, deception, and scandal. This challenging aspect to the planet ruling illness and infection may also increase fears about coronavirus, which may well be based, or may be well based, if a pandemic is declared. A trine aspect to Jupiter brings the potential good fortune, trust, and faith. However, this generous aspect to the planet of growth could also increase the spread of the virus. And it's funny because here's a full moon, and today it's just the news of the coronavirus is like really crazy. I'm going to see it. I just went to this page, so hopefully. So yeah, only 17 people died in China, so that's good. Today, I mean, it's not good that they died, and I feel sad for their families. God bless them all. But yeah, so it's 114,000 new cases, or not new cases, but 114,458 cases. 4,000 deaths now, recovered 64. And I guess I found out it was SARS. Remember when SARS was such a big deal? Only 800 people died from that. So why was that such a big deal? This 4,000 deaths is where we're at. It's still only 6%. So, hey, it's, but now over the weekend, see, what did we say on Friday? 94 countries, right? Was that right? Whatever I said on Friday, it's 115 countries and one international conveyance, meaning the Diamond Princess cruise ship harbored in Yokohama, Japan. So, yeah. In the United States, there's 708 cases. Active cases in the United States, 666. Thank you, devil number. On the Diamond Princess active cases, 444. So I'm looking at these impressively, wildly cosmic numbers. It's 733 serious critical cases in Italy. That's another number. 66 in France, serious and critical. 11 in Spain. Looking at the twin flame numbers, 33 in Japan. There's a lot of numbers. I feel like the secret in these numbers is that we are all going to be okay in the end. Everything's going to be okay. A lot of 22s here in the recovery. Bahrain, Australia have 22 each that recovered. Those are two good master numbers. 33 in Thailand, totally recovered. It's another master number that I'm seeing here. So, Macau, 10 people had it, 10 people recovered. Bada boom, bada bing. My youngest, he's just like, dude, it's like, I'm so scared of this stupid virus. It's like, if I'm going to get it, let's just get it already and get it the hell out of my system and get it over with, because it's like freaking ridiculous. I don't want to be afraid of having it. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to have it because I fit in that category of I'm in my 50s, I have asthma, I have compromised immune system. I think I'll get through it if I did get it, but it's going to be really freaking rough. I've been through some really major things, but I'm not at all looking forward to this. But we've been eating lots and lots of vegetables for like weeks, and we've been having chicken soup a lot, which is an antibiotic, antimicrobial soup. So it's, we're doing what we can do. We're trying to prepare for it. They've been out downtown with a loudspeaker here in Cuenca saying all the things that people need to do to get ready for it, because it's coming. It's inevitable. We have to get really, really stocked up on some stuff and do our damn best, our level best to stay healthy and alive. And if we get it, keep our faith. Remember the whiskey. Go back to my and the Rife app, Rife machine. Go back to my virus episode, my antivirus, killing viruses episode, in a natural way. Don't eat garlic if it comes from China, obviously. Find your natural source. Go to your farmer's market to get your vegetables. Go to local farmers and growers, and just be safe, guys. I'm worried about it, but not as much as I could. They're saying that 15 million people could die from this. I don't know. I honestly don't think that's true. Only 15 million people get that, if that's 6% of the whole world, whatever. I have to do the math, but I'll try to figure it out. But yeah, I feel like the spread of the virus just happened in a kind of a big way over the past 2-3 days. My near twin in Florida said the same thing. He's just like, he's been sick for 2 weeks, but there's no evidence he's sick, but there's evidence he's sick. Like, he doesn't know what he's got. He's like, frick, I don't know if I have the coronavirus. I don't know what I have. He keeps going to the doctor, and they keep going, well, you don't have this, you don't have that. He's on a second or third round of antibiotics already, and he's just like, damn it, I'm so sick. And yet they can't put a finger on it. They can't really tell me what's happening. And it's really scary. It's really scary. I've been wanting to go to the doctor, and I'm afraid because of all the other people who'll be there. It's just always the way, right? Okay, so the aspects to the March 2020 full moon activate Jupiter sextile Neptune. This is idealistic and spiritually enlightening aspect. It gives March 9th full moon its overall positive influence. This also means faith, hope, and moral integrity from Jupiter, and it can overcome any fears, suspicions, or secrets from Neptune. Fixed stars conjunct full moon, March 2020, have also a mixed influence, but again, a generally positive one. They also bring a potential for regrets. Ooh, I've had a lot of self-talk about my life regrets. Today, I feel like, in some ways, I've wasted 51 years of my life. That's how I feel. In some ways. And in other ways, I've made productive use of my time having this show, having my beautiful children. I don't regret that, not for 1 second. But yeah, I feel that in my life for sure. Do you guys feel it? Do you feel like you have sat here wallowing in sorrow at the regrets of your life? Or do you have no regrets? Or as the Ed Hardy tattoo says, no regrets. So they bring the potential for regrets, disgrace, and also misfortune. But also the strength, courage, and spiritual force to combat fear and deception with faith and honesty. So, the full moon meaning is sun opposite moon brings your home, family, and intimate relationships into sharper focus for the following 2 weeks of this moon phase. So, ooh, baby, expect that. Home, family, and intimate relationships will be brought into sharper focus for the next 2 weeks. Opposing forces such as work versus home, or what you need versus what you want, creates inner tension and external pressures. This can lead to conflict and also crisis that might drain your energy. So be careful. Be careful. Get your weed ready. I say to myself. The lunar qualities of emotions and instincts reach their peak at a full moon. So use your increased emotional strength and intuition to overcome any relationship challenges. Subconscious awareness allows for an impartial and balanced look at your personal relationships. You will clearly see any relationship dynamics or negative feelings causing disharmony. So, the full moon, March 2020 astrology. Here it is. It's opposite Neptune, trine Jupiter. The strongest influence is the Sun, Neptune, opposite the moon. But Jupiter sextile Neptune amplifies the fortunate influence of Jupiter and brings the more positive side of Neptune out. There are a number of fixed stars, influencing the full moon, from 3 different constellations, and the biggest is the tail of the lion, Denebula. And I'm looking at this event chart for the full moon, and we've got 4 aspects below the surface, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 above, 8 above. So I think I just said that. This is just like the other one that I saw. All right. Obviously, because it's the same day. So, full moon opposite Neptune increases emotional sensitivity so much that you could become confused about your own feelings and misunderstand others. You could also give the wrong impression to others today. A tendency to over-idealize someone and ignore their negative character traits could leave you vulnerable to deception and scandal. Being misunderstood or victimized or rejected could also lead to fear, disappointment, isolation, and also self-pity. So be very clear, very honest about your intentions, and avoid gossip. Think I didn't do that at the beginning of this, sorry. I was kind of general about what I said. It wasn't like so-and-so said this, but it's kind of something that we're all going through. You're universally though, like with A, the pandemic, and B, all the natural disasters. And it's like people are coming together, people are going away from each other, people are parting ways, people are stopping talking to each other, people are realizing they can't live without each other. It's just like a typical thing that happens during disasters, but because things have escalated, it's going to continue to happen. And a lot of my friends are like so happy in their new relationships, and I'm so happy for them. It's like, yes, finally. It gives me hope. Maybe someday someone will love me again, and that's cool. It gives me hope, when I hear other people's love stories, so it's cool. But anyway, your intuition might become negatively influenced by your subconscious fears, and your intuition might be unreliable at this time. You could imagine things that are not real, experience strange feelings, or have nightmares. Paranoia, hypochondria, weakness, guilt, and shame are all possible. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I'm hypochondriac. I did take my temperature. I'm like 0.3 above normal. So I've got something going on, but still it's kind of, I've been dizzy, and I just feel like but I'm not sick, but I don't know. Is it hypochondria? I don't know. Paranoia, yes, maybe. It's possible because of the influences. But also weakness, guilt, and shame are possible today. So take extra precautions if you're not feeling well. You also might be more susceptible to illness and infection today. Well, it's a good thing I didn't leave the house today to go shopping. It just didn't work out, and it was just like, I had a weird feeling about it. I think tomorrow I will go. You go to the open air market. At least it'll be open air. Full moon solutions. The full moon trine Jupiter, that part of it at least, does bring good feelings and happiness. It helps you share your feelings with openness and honesty to reduce the deceptive influence of Neptune. It improves mutual respect, understanding to reduce the confusing influence of Neptune. Increased self-awareness will help you better differentiate between truth, fiction, reality, and illusion. The fortunate and generous Jupiter aspect helps to bring out positive traits of Neptune, like imagination, creativity, and compassion. Also, wealth, success, popularity, and friendship are possible. I would like to extend that will be for the next 2 weeks, because this is the beginning of this moon cycle. Jupiter sextile Neptune brings harmony, kindness, hope, and good fortune. The spiritual enlightening aspect gives a good overall perspective of who you are and your place in the world. You can better align yourself with your goals and your spiritual philosophy or religious beliefs. You can be generous without sacrificing your living standards. You can grow spiritually without throwing away your material possessions. Optimism, good intentions, and moral integrity make this a good full moon for professional advancement, business, and legal matters. So if you're in the middle of a legal embroiled moment, it'll be a fine. Full moon stars. The full moon in Virgo sign is actually situated in the Leo constellation. And this is really because the constellations have moved 30 degrees out of alignment with the signs since they were invented over 2,000 years ago. You have to look at a precession of the equinoxes for more details on that. But fixed star astrology is based on planets aligned with stars on the same longitude by the horizontal lines in the star map. And go to astrologyking.com if you want to look at this. It's pretty interesting. But the closest major fixed star, which we mentioned earlier, is Denobula in the tail of the lion. And the minor stars are Vela, the sails of the ship, and Antlia Pneumatica, the air pump. That sounds like a really kick-ass shoe, doesn't it? I don't even know what that means. Yeah, there's some stuff here I've never even heard of. Alsafina, which is Vela also. Very interesting. So, Yeah, the Leonist is also the crown prince of Imperial China. What is another name for crown in Spanish is corona, like the virus. So I feel like there's like a higher something to do with what's going on. Leo constellation has been associated with royal events, ascension or death of kings and queens, election or death of heads of state. It's also linked to assassinations, uprisings, and massacres, currency, and the stock exchange, which we are seeing massive drops this weekend. The Vatican and the European Union also. So catastrophes, major catastrophes have been triggered off by the nebula in particular. And Robeson, let me see his name here. I don't know. Yeah, he's one of the astrologers. Says that the nebula makes people noble, daring, self-controlled, generous, and busy with other people's affairs. Again, the gossip thing, right? But it also gives swift judgment, despair, regrets, public disgrace, misfortune from the elements of nature, and happiness that turns to anger. Morse says the nebula symbolizes strength from the lion, along with both the ability and the need to use it wisely and constructively. It gives a talent for looking forward while at the same time being able to draw upon the past experience. Yeah, somebody put a really cool thing on my feed. Well, I mean, just in general on their feed that went on my feed. On Instagram, they said, "You're not starting over. Remember, you're starting from experience." I thought that was very wise. I thought that really just nailed it on the head. Even if you're starting over from scratch, you really aren't. You're starting over from experience. You've got more going for you now than you did the last time you started over, or from when you started from the beginning. So in general, so I thought that was cool. Full moon conjunct the nebula, honor and preferment among the vulgar, but final disgrace and ruin, violent disease of vital organ, blindness, injuries to the eyes, accidents, losses through servants, domestic quarrels, temporary separation from marriage partner. That's what a full moon conjunct the nebula means. People who had that in their chart: Marvin Gaye, whose father shot him at Thanksgiving and killed him; Bobby Brown, we know that story; Serena Williams, God bless her; Bill Cosby. I mean, we know where he went wrong. So, I guess Delta Velorum is called Al-Safina, which is an Arabic word meaning the ship. Constellation Vela is the sails of the ship. It's a once larger constellation called Argo Navis. It gives prosperity in trades and voyages, strength of mind and spirit, but also is associated with drowning. Constellation Antlia Pneumatica, the air pump, is said to bestow prosperity, harmony, and spiritual force. Maybe we should connect with that one. Antlia Pneumatica, the air pump. That's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. I've never heard that in my life. AstrologyKing.com is like super, super interesting. So, I don't know. I'm going to read the rest of this, but this is going to be kind of an extended astrology. We've had so much crap going on in astrology in the past 24 to 72 hours that I feel like I must, right? So we're going to keep going with this. So the full moon March 2020 summary. The positive Jupiter aspect to the March 9th full moon brings trust and faith to overcome any confusion from challenging Neptune. Jupiter also brings honesty, morality to expose the lies and deception from the Neptune. And Jupiter sextile Neptune helps you react to generosity, compassion, and forgiveness to those who have been victimized, betrayed, or have deceived you. It's a good full moon for overcoming all your fears. This is a good full moon to acknowledge your own weaknesses and forgive yourself. This will help you grow spiritually, morally, and ethically. Removing guilt and self-pity will lead to a happier, more contented life. No kidding. The fixed stars conjunct full moon March 2020 brings your strength, your courage, self-control, prosperity, and generosity, mental and spiritual force in addition. These good qualities are amplified by the helpful Jupiter aspect, but the challenging Neptune aspect can increase the risk of regrets, disgrace, misfortune, and arguments with loved ones. Neptune rules illness and infection, and it could be a bad omen for the spread of the coronavirus, especially if the sextile aspect between Jupiter and Neptune acts to amplify the infection. So the pandemic or fears about the coronavirus, fears in general, confusion, secrets, and propaganda may negatively impact world growth. Hopefully, some lucky breaks and honesty will dispel the fears and lead to greater optimism and prosperity. So be careful about the full moon conjunction denebula that can bring major catastrophes, potentially assassinations, uprisings, massacres, royal events, and the election or death of the heads of state. But there you go. The full moon relationship with the new moon that we just had 2 weeks ago on the 23rd of February, that still has a sexy, sporty, exciting influence, bringing opportunities to develop your natural talents and reach your full potential. It was and has been for the past 2 weeks an ideal time for competing, starting new projects, taking risks in sexual relations. I don't agree with that if you do have that Mercury retrograde influence like I do. I just, nope. But new projects are best done during the waxing phase of the moon. But again, because of the Mercury, I'm saying no. The full moon lasts for 2 weeks up to the March 24th new moon. So we've got 2 more weeks. Okay, so there's more. If you want to learn about it in your own chart, you can do that. We're going to go real quickly to the Farmer's Almanac before we take a quick break and listen to the sun. And then we'll go into space weather. Then I can explain to you what that sound that you're going to hear is. We are in the super moon. This is the first super moon of the year. It was huge. I hope you guys got to see it. It's the worm moon. It just means that earthworms and grubs tend to emerge from the winter dormancy at this time. So it's a good time to go fishing, guys, if you are into that. If you want to go catch your dinner, as it were. It is a sure sign of spring, and that is a positive thing for everything all around. That is good. This is a super worm moon, they say on the Farmer's Almanac, almanac.com. Let's just hope the worms don't take that to heart. Yeah, giant worms. So scary. Reminds me of Dune. Supermoon status this year's worm moon. Let's see. The supermoon just means that the full moon is coinciding also with perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit of the Earth where it is the closest to our planet. So it's having like a massive influence, bigger than normal. And it's more brighter. It's 7% larger to the eye than a typical full moon. It's huge. So it says it's usually during the day, today it was during the day. Eastern Standard Time anyway. It says don't go out on the night on March 9th expecting to see a noticeably more massive moon. It was to me though, when it was low on the horizon, holy man, it was gold, not a gold, like a yellow moon, and it was huge. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. But I'm on the equator, so it's going to be really obvious here. But they say it can be difficult to perceive if you're in general, but for me, it really was. But the March full moon names, besides a full worm moon, this is also known as a full sap moon. This is the time of year when sap of the sugar maples start to flow. And other names to this moon is the crow moon. A lot of crows out. Because, as the snow thaws and the animals that died, the crows get to eat. So now the crows are out. And the Lenten moon, which leads up to Easter. So there you have it. Basically, it's robins and other birds are starting to feed. It's a true sign of spring as the earthworms come up. Roots are starting to push their way up through the soil, and the earth experiences its rebirth as it awakens from its winter slumber. And as we emerge, thankfully, most of us safely from this horrible Mercury retrograde period and this crazy stuff that's been going on. So there you have it. I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to listen to the sun. before we get into what that was you just heard, it was creepy as hell, wasn't it? I wanted to read to you a little poem that was on the almanac.com. I thought it was adorable in relationship to this moon. This is from Dorothy Maria Ogilvy, who was a Scottish poet she lived from the years 1823 to 1895. And she writes, "Owl of the hollow tree, speaking mysteriously, when the moon's phantom light makes my dim chamber bright." So I thought that was really sweet. I wanted to get that in there before we get into this. Okay, so what this thing is that we just heard. Thomas Ashcraft in New Mexico has an amateur radio telescope, and what came out as the loudspeakers that he was able to capture was what you just heard. And this was the first solar radio bursts of solar cycle 25. Now, we have been waiting 34 or 35 days for solar cycle 25 to begin. We went at least that long without a sunspot at all, with hardly any solar activity. It's been very crazy. This was sunspot AR2758, and it's really crazy. How you can tell it's solar cycle 25 is the magnetic polarity that they can tell. It's the opposite of the last cycle. The last one was a negative and positive. This one was a positive and negative sunspot cycle, and that's when they look from the left to the right, basically, through the thing. This is according to Hale's law, sunspots switch polarities from one solar cycle to the next, and so we're in solar cycle 25. And this is what we heard was a solar radio burst. Now, these radio sounds are caused by the beams of electrons accelerated by unrest in the sunspot's fast-changing magnetic canopy. And when the electrons slice through the sun's atmosphere, they generate a ripple of plasma waves and radio emissions that is detectable on Earth, and we are 93 million miles away from it. So, I mean, you heard how freaking loud that was, and how, I don't know if it affected you the way it did me. It made me cry when I heard it the second time. When I heard it today, and then I heard it a second time too. And it just was how it affected me when it happened. I heard it that way inside my mind. It was so loud, and I couldn't hear anything around me. My tinnitus was going crazy. My emotions were going crazy. It's for 2 or 3 days I've been super affected by all the sun-related cosmic radiation and the sun-related activity. It's been crazy. So if you've been really emotionally sensitive, in addition to the full moon stuff and the Mercury retrograde stuff, right? People's fears of the coronavirus are just everywhere. So you need to let go of the fears, because you're either going to get it or you're not. If you're not, you're fine. If you do get it, you're going to recover, or you're not. You have a 94% chance. That's an A of passing this exam. You have a 6% chance of not. Chances are you're in the 94% category. So you're probably going to be fine. So don't let it fear you, Plus, you know how to wash your hands. Everyone can wash their hands. Soap is 3 bars for $1 at the Dollar Tree. You can do it. You can do it. You're going to be fine, So let go of the fears and alleviate the fears of the people around you. Colloidal silver, right frequency. You know how to do it. Aromatherapy works too. So, okay, what we just heard was a solar radio burst. It was a mixture between the type 3 and type 5 solar radio bursts. Astronomers class them into 5 types. We heard 2 mixed. This person, Ashcraft, he says, even in the height of our solar maximum, this would be considered a very strong solar burst. And he's been listening to the solar radio many, many years, and he says he's hoping for more. Of course, it's exciting when you're when you're an astronomer. But this is really important, and hear this part. There is a growing evidence about solar radio bursts that disorient the navigation of the gray whales It causes them to strand on beaches. What you just heard causes whales to strand on beaches. According to the radical pair hypothesis of magnetoreception, shortwave bursts, such as the one Ashcraft recorded, may be especially effective at sending them off course. So if that's affecting gray whales, it's sending them off course and they're beaching themselves because of the sound you just freaking heard, what is it doing to you? You just got to ask yourself, what is it doing to me? How did it affect me? Don't sweep it under the rug. Just sit with it for a minute and see how it affected you. That's why I played it. Because I want you to be aware of it. Because did you hear something like that? Even if you didn't hear it, did you feel the energy from yesterday to today? Did you feel it? Because I know I did. When I heard that, I'm like, oh, it's not going to. And then I heard it and I went, oh my God, it did. It did affect me. I couldn't believe it. It affected me the same way as if it was still happening. It's just that sound. Solar wind speed right now is 337 kilometers per second, which is actually pretty slow for solar wind speed. This sunspot that I just sent that in the radioactive, it says that it was emitted in a series of strong shortwave radio bursts. It bubbled up from beneath the sun's surface, and the strong staticky outburst that you heard has rivaled bursts that you would typically have been recorded or that would be heard during a solar maximum. I mean, we just started our first sunspot. It's sunspot number 12. The other ones just kind of came and went really quick. So there's that, and then there was a quiet wave in Earth's magnetosphere, according to spaceweather.com. On the 8th, at the same time, a low hum rippled through Earth's magnetic field. It lasted for 2 hours. That was yesterday. That's why I'm doing such an extra long introduction today. Because so much cosmic crap is happening. I mean, I don't want you guys to go, oh, well, it was 34 on this Schumann Resonance. That's what affected me. You guys, it's so much more stuff affecting us all at once. So much more. I don't even know what this Schumann, we haven't gotten to it yet. So I'm just, but I know one of them was 35. Probably for Italy, it was 12 or something, But there's a low hum rippled through Earth's magnetic field for 2 hours. Caused the compass needles in the Arctic to wave back and forth 1/10 of a degree. Rob Stames recorded the event from his magnetic observatory in the Polar Light Center in Lofoten, Norway. You can go look at these. It's huge when you look at. It's just like a normal. It's just like a normal ripple, and all of a sudden this huge ripple. You go to spaceweather.com, you'll see what I'm talking about. He says, when Earth's magnetic field is quiet, and it's been lately, sometimes very interesting things can be seen on my instruments, he says. In this case, we recorded pulsations with a remarkably low frequency, 7 minutes between pulses. What are the waves? Imagine blowing across a piece of paper, making it flutter with your breath. Solar wind can have a similar effect on your magnetic fields of the Earth. The waves Stames recorded are essentially flutters propagating down the flanks of Earth's magnetosphere, excited by the breath of the sun. Researchers call these waves pulsation continuous, or PCA for short. PC waves are classified into 5 types depending on their period. These fall into the range of 150 to 600 seconds, or PC5. PC5 waves are linked to a loss of particles from the Van Allen radiation belts. Energetic electrons can actually surf these waves into Earth's atmosphere, then they are dissipated harmlessly. But detecting these delicate waves requires extraordinary quiet, like sitting in a silent room and hearing a pin drop. Solar minimum makes this possible, and at the moment, the Earth's magnetic field is so still, magnetometers can pick up delicate waves that would otherwise be drowned out by normal hubbub of geomagnetic activity. So, I mean, that's just kind of, crazy, right? So the all-sky fireball fireball. Network from NASA, 4. We only had 4 today. So, all right, fine. The solar wind that has been flowing from the polar coronal hole could brush Earth's magnetic field on March 11th. So expect that on Wednesday we are going to have coronal, solar waves coming from the coronal hole. In the sun, again, Ulu neutron counts are high, and the thermosphere is cold. Let me see if there's anything else interesting. There's always the daily hot flights. If you're going to take a trip, go check your spaceweather.com, see what flights are best to get the least amount of cosmic radiation. It does cause cancer, so be careful. Yeah, so that's it. 0 days at the spot. We finally got a sunspot. Just a lot of crap going on there, man. All right, so here we go for disclosurenews.it. 17, baby. I knew it was gonna be low. 17. Gosh. So the new graph shows slight activity. It's always been present for 48 hours. This more significant movement so far started around 1 UTC time when the amplitude exceeded power 10. It's very low. At 6 UTC, there was a further increase to power 13. And then we had power 16 at 10 UTC time. The crescendo is continuing at the time of the update. We are at power 17. And then the 1700 reports at power 17 remain the highest value on the today's chart, but there's still a slight background activity. So yeah, I knew it was low. It's weird. I just felt like that was going to be super low from it usually is compared to the other charts that I've got here. So we're going to go over here, do some more science, and then we're going to talk about spiritual stuff in a minute. But Monday, March 9th at midnight started off. California started off at 39 hertz frequency on the Schumann Resonance scale, and by 5 a.m. they were to 34 on the Schumann Resonance scale. They did go up a little bit. They went up to 30. Yeah, they just went down. Okay, so, and Hafuf, Saudi Arabia was at 0 all the way across. They've been there since March 3rd. Lithuania started off at 110 hertz frequency on the Schumann Resonance scale. That's huge for them in recent days. That's pretty big. They did go down, though, to 94 hertz frequency by 5 a.m. In Alberta, Canada, they started off their values of the day at 41 hertz frequency on the Schumann Resonance scale at midnight, and by 5 a.m. they were at 38 hertz frequency. Northland, New Zealand started off at 56 hertz frequency at midnight, and by 5 a.m. went to 56. They went up to 57, and then they're kind of fluctuating, 56, 57, 56, 57, but that's where they're at. Hulului, South Africa. They're on the rise again. On the 3rd, they were also at 0, but at midnight, they started off at 239 hertz frequency on the Schumann Resonance scale at midnight, and by 5 a.m. they were at 257. So those are pretty freaking big numbers. 257, that's the winner for the day, basically. All right, so in A Course in Miracles, acim.org is where you will find the website for the Foundation for Inner Peace. We are lesson 250. And I'm going to read that to you. You can go get A Course in Miracles app. Just look up ACIM or A Course in Miracles lessons on your app store, whatever app store you have. They're free. There's a bunch of free ones. If you're interested in starting this from the beginning, or otherwise just listen in. I'm going to read the whole lesson today. It's very short. Lesson 250 is this. Let me not see myself as limited. Let me not see myself as limited. Let me behold the Son of God today and witness to his glory. Let me not try to obscure the holy light in him and see his strength diminished and reduced to frailty, nor perceive the lacks in him with which I would attack his sovereignty. He is your Son, my Father, and today I would behold his gentleness instead of my illusions. He is what I am, and as I see him, so I see myself. Today I would see truly that this day I may at last identify with him. Let me not see myself as limited. So there you go. There you have it. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, we are going to read the next installment in Allan Kardec's The Spirits book, written in 1850, published in April of 1857 in Paris, France, right after this message. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's high time you did. It is the absolute easiest way to make a podcast. First of all, it's absolutely free. Second of all, they have creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. You guys have known that I've been doing this for 8 months using the Anchor.fm app right on my cell phone, and I have done it everywhere, right? I have recorded this in my living room, my bedroom, little cafes in Quito, Ecuador, all over Cuenca. It's so absolutely easy to make your podcast, and editing is just a snap. Anchor also will distribute your podcast for you, and it took me about 2.5 months to become syndicated, and now I'm available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more, and so can you. You can make money from your podcast also, and there's no minimum requirement. You get paid from your very first listener. It is everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So please, if you are interested in making a podcast of your very own, do not hesitate to start with Anchor. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. This is like the never-ending night of extraordinary delights as well as non-delights. Oh my God, it's taking me forever to get this episode out. While I was waiting for that last section to upload, it was like 4:25 in the morning, and my son bursts into my room. He's like, oh my God, do you hear that humming? I'm freaking out, totally freaking out. And we go into the kitchen together, and I hear the hum of the fridge and a hum from upstairs, like from someone's something. He heard both of those, but he heard a third hum, and I couldn't hear it over the tinnitus in my head, which might have been the hum he was referring to. He probably heard it a little bit different than me. But while we're standing there in the dark looking out over our little part of the city from our 3rd story window, which isn't very high up at all, I was looking out over the hill of all the apartment complexes and houses, and all of a sudden a giant chunk of those houses, all of their lights went off at once. Totally freaky, but it wasn't a power outage, because all of the weird peach colored lights that they have, which is less harsh on the environment, down, bright white street lights, we have like these weird orangey, peachy colored lights. But everybody's lights on, like their bathroom lights or their hallway or their whatever lights that they leave on at night, to see where all of a sudden just across like 2 or 3 blocks, just boom, they all went off at once. One of the freakiest things I have ever seen here, you guys. I'm a little spooked right now, actually. Kind of freaking out, just to be honest. So anyway, moving right along with The Spirits book by Allan Kardec, published in Paris, 1857, in France. This book, we're way into it now. We're on page 344 out of 429, but I don't think I'm going to read. There's like, after the questions are done being asked, there's like all this speculation and stuff added from St. Augustine, which is really insane. Don't know why he added something to the end of it. I looked into this last week. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to read that. So if you guys want to read it after we get to the end of this. So it's not going to last as long as I thought, the reading of this, but let's just get into it. So we left off at question 872 last week. And the heading for this section is called Theoretic Summary of the Springs of Human Action. So here we go. And this is a frickin' long question too, so I'm not going to say bear with me. I didn't write it. But bear with Allan Kardec himself. God rest his soul. Question 872. The question of free will may thus be summed up. Man is not fatally led into evil. The acts he accomplishes are not written down beforehand. The crimes he commits are not the result of any decree of destiny. He may have chosen, as trial and as expiation, an existence in which, through the surroundings amidst which he is placed, or the circumstances that supervene, he will be tempted to do wrong, but he always remains free to do or not to do. Thus his spirit exercises free will in the spirit life by choosing his next existence and the kind of trials to which it will subject him, and in the corporeal life by using his power of yielding to or resisting the temptations to which he has voluntarily subjected himself. The duty of education is to combat the evil tendencies brought by the spirit into his new existence, duty which it will only be able to thoroughly fulfill when it shall be based on a deeper and truer knowledge of man's moral nature. Through knowledge of the laws of this department of his nature, education will be to modify it, as it already modifies his intelligence by instruction and his temperament by hygiene. Each spirit, when freed from matter and in the state of erraticity, chooses his future corporeal existences according to the degree of purification to which he has already attained. And it is in the power of making this choice, as we have previously pointed out, that his free will principally consists. This free will is not annulled by incarnation. For if the incarnated spirit yields to the influence of matter, it is always to the very trials previously chosen by him that he succumbs. And he is always free to invoke the assistance of God and of good spirits to help him to surmount them. Without free will, there would be for man neither guilt in doing wrong nor merit in doing right, a principle so fully recognized in this life that the world always apportions its blame or its praise of any deed to the intention, that is to say, to the will of the doer, and will is but another term for freedom. Man, therefore, could not seek an excuse for his misdeeds in his organization without abdicating his reason and his condition as a human being and assimilating himself to the condition of the brute. If he could do so in regard to what is wrong, he would have to do the same in regard to what is wrong. Wait. That makes no sense. I know he meant the word right there somewhere. Okay, if he could do so in regard to what is wrong, he would have to do the same in regard to what is wrong. He would have to do the same in regard to what is right. That was weird. It was like a double sentence. Sorry about that, guys. But whenever a man does what is right, he takes good care to claim the merit of his action and never thinks of attributing that merit to his organs, which proves that he instinctively refuses to renounce, at the bidding of certain theory builders, the most glorious privilege of his species, vis-a-vis freedom of thought. Moving on with the damn question still. It's like a 6-page question, so... Okay, so fatality, as commonly understood, supposes an anterior and irrevocable ordaining of all the events of human life, whatever their degree of importance. If such were the order of things, man would be a machine without a will of his own. Of what use would his intelligence be to him, seeing that he would be invariably overruled in all his acts by the power of destiny? Such preordination, if it took place, would be the destruction of all moral freedom. There would be no such thing as human responsibility, and consequently neither good nor evil, neither virtues nor crimes. God, being sovereignly just, could not chastise his creatures for faults which they had not the option of committing, nor could he reward them for virtues which would constitute for them no merit. It would be, moreover, the negation of the law of progress. For if man were thus dependent on fate, he would make no attempt to ameliorate his position, since his action would be both unnecessary and unavailing. On the other hand, fatality is not a mere empty word. It really exists in regard to the position occupied by each man upon the earth and the part which he plays in it, as a consequence of the kind of existence previously made choice of by his spirit, as trial, expiation, or mission. For in virtue of that choice, he is necessarily subjected to the vicissitudes of the existence he has chosen, and to all the tendencies, good or bad, inherent in it. But fatality ceases at this point, for it depends on his will to yield or not to yield to those tendencies. The details of events are subordinated to the circumstances to which man gives himself rise by his action, and in regards to which he may be influenced by the good or bad thoughts suggested to him by spirits. There is a fatality, then, in the events which occur independently of our action, because they are the consequence of the choice of our existence made by our spirit in the other life. But there can be no fatality in the results of those events, because we are often able to modify the results by our own prudence. There is no fatality in regard to the acts of our moral life. It is only in regard to his death that man is placed under the law of an absolute, inexorable fatality. For he can neither evade the decree which has fixed the term of his existence, nor avoid the kind of death which is destined to interrupt his course. According to the common belief, man derives all his instincts from himself. They proceed either from his physical organization, for which he is not responsible, or from his own nature, which would furnish him with an equally valid excuse for his imperfections, as if such were the case he might justly plead that it is through no option of his own that he has been made what he is. The doctrine of Spiritism is evidently more moral. It admits the plenitude of man's free will, and in telling him that, when he does wrong, he yields to an evil suggestion made by another spirit, it leaves him the entire responsibility of his wrongdoing, because it recognizes his power of resisting that suggestion, which is evidently more easy for him to do than it would be to fight against his own nature. Thus, according to Spiritist doctrine, no temptation is irresistible. A man can always close his mental ear against the occult voice which addresses itself to his inner consciousness, just as he can close it against a human voice. He can always withdraw himself from the suggestions that would tempt him to evil by exerting his will against the tempter, asking of God at the same time to give him the necessary strength and calling on good spirits to help him in vanquishing the temptation. This view of the exciting cause of human action is a natural consequence of the totality of the teaching now being given from the spirit world. It is not only sublime in point of morality, it is also eminently fitted to enhance man's self-respect, for it shows him that he is as free to shake off the yoke of an oppressor as he is to close his house against unwelcome intrusion. That he is not a machine set in motion by an impulsion independent of his will, that he is a reasoning being with the power of listening to, weighing, and choosing freely between two opposing counsels. Let us add that while thus counseled, man is not deprived of the initiative of his action. What he does of his own motion because he is still a spirit, though incarnated in a corporeal envelope, and still preserves as a man the good and bad qualities he possessed as a spirit. The faults we commit have their original source, therefore, in the imperfection of our own spirit, which has not yet acquired the moral excellence it will acquire in course of time, but which nevertheless is in full possession of its free will. Corporeal life is permitted to us for the purpose of purging our spirit of its imperfections through the trials to which we are thus subjected. And it is precisely those imperfections that weaken us and render us accessible to the suggestions of other imperfect spirits, who take advantage of our weakness in trying to make us fail in the fulfillment of the task we have imposed upon ourselves. If we issue victorious from the struggle, our spirit attains a higher grade. If we fail, our spirit remains as it was, no better, no worse, but with the unsuccessful attempt to be made over again. A repetition of the same trial that may retard our advancement for a very long period. But in proportion as we effect our improvement, our weakness diminishes, and we give less and less handle to those who would tempt us to evil. And as our moral strength constantly increases, bad spirits cease at length to act upon us. The totality of spirits, good and bad, constitute by their incarnation the human race. And as our earth is one of the most backward worlds, more bad spirits than good ones are incarnated in it, and a general perversity is visible among mankind. Let us then do our utmost not to have to come back to it, but to merit admission into a world of higher degree, one of those happier worlds in which goodness reigns supreme, and in which we shall remember our sojourn in this lower world only as a period of exile. Okay, that wasn't a question at all, and it wasn't even answered by the spirits, because that was just a massive statement listed as a question. And sorry about that. When I said the word lie, it literally said L-I-E, but because it's been translated through multiple languages, and I don't even know what happened, but sometimes the word he, H-E, comes out in the print as L-I-E. Is that a typo? I don't even know what's going on there, but I think that they probably used a photocopy machine and then had it translated through a program or something, like a scanner to a program. I've had translator programs like that in the past that I could do that when I was writing a lot more. And, well, that was one thing that happened. Sometimes the letters get jumbled up in the copy machine as you're trying to scan it and put it. So I think that's what happened, because this was a very old book. So maybe that's because it was just so much information, but so it just adds to the confusion if I don't catch the word is the wrong word sometimes. So I'm doing my best here, guys. All right. We are now at chapter 11. There's a nice master number for you. All right. The 10, it says 10, the law of justice, of love, and of charity. And then below the X, or 10, X, in Roman numeral, it says 1, natural rights and justice. 2, right of property, robbery. 3, charity, love of the neighbor. 4, maternal and filial affection. I'm hoping we could get through this whole chapter tonight. So this is a very long episode again, guys. Usually Mondays aren't as long, but this one's going to be. Natural rights and justice. Question 873 is actually a question. Thank God. All right, we're here. Is the sentiment of justice natural or the result of acquired ideas? The spirits say, it is so natural that your feeling spontaneously revolts at the idea of an injustice. Moral progress undoubtedly develops this sentiment, but it does not create it. God has placed it in the heart of man, and for this reason you often find among simple and primitive people notions of justice more exact than those of others who are possessed of a larger amount of knowledge. Question 874. If justice be a law of nature, how is it that men understand it so differently, and that the same thing appears just to one and unjust to another? The spirits say, it is because your passions often mingle with this sentiment and debase it as they do with the greater part of the natural sentiments, causing you to see things from a false point of view. Question 875. How should justice be defined? And the spirits say, justice consists in respect for the rights of others. And the follow-up question to that is, what determines those rights? And the spirits say, 2 things, human law and natural law. Men having made laws in harmony with their character and habits, those laws have established rights that have varied with the progress of enlightenment. Your laws at this day, though still far from perfect, no longer consecrate what were rights or considered as rights in the Middle Ages. Those rights which appear to you monstrous appeared just and natural at that epoch. The rights established by men are not therefore always conformable with justice. Moreover, they only regulate certain social relations, while in private life there are an immense number of acts that are submitted only to the tribunal of conscience. I mean, does that make you want to go back and read what people thought were natural laws or what were human laws in the Middle Ages? I'm kind of freaked out by that statement. Now I'm like, how much have laws changed? I mean, I do know that there have been property laws that were completely wild. Women couldn't own property, all kinds of stuff. Now I'm just curious about all this. All right, so question 876. Independently of the right established by human law, what is the basis of justice according to natural law? And the answer of the spirits, they say, Christ has told you, do unto others whatsoever you would that others should do unto you. God has placed in the heart of man, as a true rule of all justice, the desire which each of you feels to see his own rights respected. When uncertain as to what he should do in regard to his fellow creature in any given conjuncture, let each man ask himself what he would wish to have done to himself under the same circumstances. God could not give him a safer guide than his own conscience. And Allan Kardec adds his own 2 cents here. He says, the true criterion of justice is, in fact, to desire for others what one would desire for oneself, not merely to desire for oneself what one would desire for others, which is not precisely the same thing. As it not natural to desire harm for oneself, we are sure in taking our personal desires as a type of our conduct towards our neighbors, never to desire anything but good for them. In all ages and in all beliefs, man has always sought to enforce his personal rights. The sublime peculiarity of the Christian religion is its taking of personal right as the basis of the right of the neighbor. Question 877. Does the necessity of living in society impose any special obligations on mankind? And the spirits answer, yes. And the first of these is to respect the rights of others. He who respects those rights will always be just. In your world, where so many neglect to practice the law of justice, you have recourse to reprisals, and this causes trouble and confusion in human society. Social life gives rights and imposes corresponding duties. Question 878. It is possible for a man to be under an illusion as to the extent of his rights. What is there that can show him their true limit? And the spirits say, the limit of the right which he would recognize on the part of his neighbor towards himself under similar circumstances, and vice versa. Follow-up question is, but if each attributes to himself the rights of his fellow creatures, what becomes of subordination to superiors? Would not such a principle be anarchical? Like anarchy. Did I say that right? Anarchical? And destructive of all power? The spirits say, natural rights are the same for all men, from the smallest to the greatest. God has not fashioned some men from a finer clay than others, and all are equals in his sight. Natural rights are eternal. The rights which man has established perish with his institutions, but each man feels distinctly his strength or his weakness, and will always be conscious of a sort of deference towards him whose wisdom or virtue entitles him to respect. It is important to mention this in order that those who think themselves superior may know what are the duties that will give them a right to deference. There will be no insubordination when authority shall be attributed only to superior wisdom. Question 879. What would be the character of the man who should practice justice in all its purity? The spirits say he would be truly righteous, after the example of Jesus, for he would practice the love of the neighbor and charity, without which there can be no real justice. All right, so the next section is called Right of Property, Robbery. All right, question 880. Which is the first of all the natural rights of man? The spirits say, the right to live, and therefore no one has the right to take the life of his fellow creature, or to do anything that may compromise his personal existence. Question 881. Does the right to live give to man the right to amass the means of living in order that he may repose when no longer able to work? And the spirits say, yes, but he should do this in concert with his family, like the bee, by honest labor, and not by amassing a solitary selfishness. Certain animals even set man an example of this kind of foresight. Question 882. Has man the right to defend what he has amassed by his labors? And the spirits say, has not God said, thou shalt not steal? And did not Jesus say, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's? It's funny, I was just thinking about that quote earlier. And Allan Kardec adds his thought here. He says, what a man has amassed by honest labor is a legitimate property that he has a right to defend, for possession of the property, which is the fruit of labor, is a natural right, as sacred as the right to labor or to live. Question 883. Is the desire to possess natural to man? The spirits say, yes, but when it is simply for himself and for his personal satisfaction, it is selfishness. So, a follow-up question to that is, but is not the desire to possess a legitimate one, since he who has enough to live upon is not a burden to others? And the spirits say, some men are insatiable and accumulate without benefit to anyone, merely to satisfy their passions. Do you suppose that this can be pleasing to God? He, on the contrary, who amasses through his labor in order to have the means of assisting his fellow creatures, practices the law of love and of charity, and his labor receives the blessing of God. And question 884. See, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to go back over that because there's something there. So yeah, all right. Because I was thinking, what if somebody just is not good in relationships? Maybe they're physically unattractive or emotionally unintelligent, or maybe they have both of those qualities in spades, but at the same time, they just can't really connect for some reason with anybody. And they have to still supply their own personal needs for themselves to live. Otherwise, you're going to live homeless and get sick and die, or starve to death, or whatever, if you don't make your own money to live. So I kind of feel like, what if you only make a meager living and, that's all you got, and no one's loving you, and you're trying to reach out, but no one cares? I mean, is that not pleasing to God? Is that displeasing to God? I just want to pose the question. I guess it's not going to be really answered, but I think about this stuff. Like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm in that situation right now. I'm not in a relationship, right? So, and my kids, who I love with all my heart, are going to be both independent adults in like 6-7 months. My youngest he's on the path now, and he'll be there by the time he's 18, or 1 or 2 months after. So my question is, so me being left behind, and now I don't have to take care of my kids because they're taking care of themselves. And if I became wealthy, of course I'd help them, and I do help. I regularly give to charity anyway. I always have, but not much, like $20 a month at the most. Lately, I mean, back when I had more money, more hundreds of dollars, but like, what if I only make a very meager living? Is that like displeasing to God? Then why am I living? Why is my purpose? Why do I even have a purpose on earth? If that's what happens. If I become a millionaire, yeah, I'm going to hire people. I'm going to create businesses and jobs and opportunities and help people because I want to do that. It's like from the goodness of my heart. But what if I only make a meager living? What if you're in that position right now and you don't have a family, you don't have a love of your life, and you don't really want kids? You don't feel like it's warranted to bring kids into the world, in such a crazy world that's so overpopulated with all of its problems. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of assumptions, but I think this is a very old 162.5-year-old manuscript that kind of doesn't take today's issues into consideration. But I don't know. I just wanted to throw it out there. I mean, maybe things were a little bit more equal as far as what people got paid back in the day. But I mean, now we have people like in Ecuador, they make $2.60 an hour, and they work in a grocery store. In the United States, they make $10 an hour in a grocery store. At least when I was there, I was making $12.50 because I have a degree in psychology, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. People that had been working in the grocery store for 15 years without a degree, only a high school diploma, made less than me. They deserved more money. They had seniority. They worked longer. And so I see, but still, that's not enough to live. $12 an hour, it doesn't afford you much to help other people or do for other people. It doesn't really give you hardly anything. And that was before my husband died, when I was still living with him. So I'd use that money to pay for groceries for my kids, pay for their food. But I don't know. These kind of questions always kind of get me a little bit going. So get back onto the track, Elena. Question 884. What is the characteristic of legitimate property? And the spirits say no property is legitimate unless acquired without injury to others. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, and he has a little addition, his own thought. Allan Kardec writes, the law of love and of justice, forbidding us to do to others what we would not that others should do to us, implicitly condemns every means of acquiring which would be contrary to that law. Question 885. Is the right of property unlimited? The spirits say, everything that has been legitimately acquired is undoubtedly a property. But as we have said, human legislation, being imperfect, frequently sets up conventional rights opposed to natural justice. For this reason, men reform their laws in proportion as progress is accomplished and as they obtain a better notion of justice. What appears right in one century appears barbarous in another. Yeah, that's true. Charity and love of the neighbor. That's where we're at now. That's the name of the section. Question 886. What is the true meaning of the word charity as employed by Jesus? And the spirits say, benevolence for everyone, indulgence for the imperfections of others, forgiveness of injuries. Oh, that's like really sweet. All right. Still emotional from this moon stuff. Ugh. Okay, so Allan Kardec adds to that. He says, love and charity are the complement of the law of justice, for to love our neighbor is to do him all the good in our power, all that we should wish to have done to ourselves. Charity, according to Jesus, is not restricted to almsgiving, but embraces all our relations with our fellow men, whether our inferiors, our equals, or our superiors. It prescribes indulgence on our part because we need the same ourselves. It forbids us to humiliate the unfortunate, as is too often done. How many who are ready to lavish respect and attentions on the rich appear to think it not worth their while to be civil to the poor? And yet, the more pitiable the situation of the latter, the more scrupulously should we refrain from adding humiliation to misfortune. He who is really kind endeavors to raise his inferior in his own estimation by diminishing the distance between them. Question 887. Jesus has also said, love your enemies. But would it not be contrary to our natural tendencies to love our enemies, and does not unfriendliness proceed from a want of sympathy between spirits? The spirits say it would certainly be impossible for a man to feel tender and ardent affection for his enemies. And Jesus did not intend to prescribe anything of the kind. To love your enemies means to forgive them and to return good for evil. By so doing, you become their superior. By vengeance, you place yourselves beneath them. That's like really important, right? Whew, thanks for that. That's incredible clarification, actually. Question 888. I love the synchronicity of the numbers, guys. A lot of those tonight. What is to be thought of almsgiving? And the spirits say, to be reduced to beg degrades a man morally as well as physically. It brutifies him. In a state of society based on the law of God and justice, provision would be made for assisting the weak with without humiliating them. The means of living would be ensured to all who are unable to work, so as not to leave their life at the mercy of chance and of individual goodwill. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Having lived through several weeks of this kind of situation, I never asked anyone for a thing, and God provided me, thank you God, through other people who saw what was needed and helped without degrading me. But that's a perfect description of it. It is brutifying. It is one of the worst things I've had to go through after being robbed in Colombia and almost starving to death with my children. Was like one of the hardest 2 weeks of my life. I mean, it was so hard. I was so scared we weren't going to make it. We all ended up sick in bed for 6 weeks. Absolutely, like, taking antibiotics. Just, it was a very, very hard time. It's going to make an interesting read when I put it in a book, though. So, the follow-up question to that is, do you blame almsgiving? And the spirits say, no, it is not the giving of alms that is reprehensible, but the way in which it is too often done. He who comprehends charity as inculcated by Jesus seeks out the needy without waiting for the latter to hold out his hand. Yeah, exactly. You know, waiting for someone to say something when that just, it's like, it's the lowest feeling. Trust me, guys, there's the lowest feeling to think that you might have to ask. And asking it's really brutal. True charity is always gentle as well as benevolent, for it consists as much in the manner of doing a kindness as in the deed itself. A service, if delicately rendered, has a double value. But if rendered with haughtiness, though want may compel its acceptance, the recipient's heart is not touched by it. Remember also that ostentation destroys, in the sight of God, the merit of beneficence. Jesus has said, "Let not your left hand know what your right hand does," teaching you by this injunction not to tarnish charity by pride and vanity. You must distinguish between almsgiving, properly so called, and beneficence. The most necessitous is not always he who begs by the wayside. Many who are really poor are restrained from begging by the dread of humiliation, and suffer silently and in secret. He who is really humane seeks out this hidden misery, and relieves it without ostentation. Love one another, such is the divine law by which God governs all the worlds of the universe. Love is the law of attraction for living and organized beings. Attraction is the law of love for inorganic matter. Never lose sight of the fact that every spirit, whatever his degree of advancement or his situation in reincarnation or in erraticity, is always placed between a superior who guides and improves him and an inferior towards whom he has the same duties to fulfill. Be therefore charitable, not merely by the cold bestowal of a coin on a mendicant who ventures to beg it of you, but by seeking out the poverty that hides itself from view. Be indulgent for the defects of those about you. Instead of despising the ignorant and the vicious, instruct them and make them better. Be gentle and benevolent to your inferiors. Be the same for the humblest creatures of the lower reigns, and you will have obeyed the law of God. And that's a quote from Saint Vincent de Paul. There's a charity in Detroit, Michigan called Saint Vincent de Paul. My neighbors, even though they were working, they could still barely make ends meet because house bills are like $1,000 before you even get into things like paying for groceries or transportation or clothing. It's really expensive there. The houses are cheap as hell, but everything else is expensive. But I remember the neighbors went and got a bunch of food, and they come knocking on our door, and they said, I don't know what your situation is, but we got a bunch of food. Come and get what you want. And we're going to distribute it. They stood in line all day long, and they distributed the food to all the people in the neighborhood. They said, we love everyone here. We're all cousins because we're on this block together. We're in this world, in this existence together at this time. So we are sharing it with whoever takes, that you can have whatever you want. This is the stuff we didn't want from what we got. Here it is. And it was like incredible, it was just like, they tried to give us a ham. I'm like, I don't want the ham. I'm Muslim, so it's yours, sweetie. In fact, I think so-and-so down the street might need it. I have a feeling. And everyone got what they needed. It was like really cool. It just, there's a charity energy and a love energy, even among the brutality that was also in Detroit at the time. My neighborhood wasn't as bad as some others, although I had a gun pointed to my head twice by my neighbors. The ones that didn't like me, I guess. I don't know. Long story, but it's a crazy place. I still managed to have a great deal of love for everybody on the block. I felt like I understood them quite a bit when they would tell me their stories, and it was beautiful. But my beautiful neighbor, when she did that just it opened my heart to so much love. And she this is how she does it, right? Just like St. Vincent de Paul says. And it's funny because I think that was the name of the charity that she stood in line for. And every day of the week, you could stand in a different charity line to get whatever you need to eat there. It's really cool. You just have to know the secrets of all of it. And it's like, wow. But I don't know. I still know if I'm going to sell my house there. I don't know if I'm going to live there. I don't know. But if I do, at least I know where I can go eat. And I know that my neighbors will help me, and I'll help them back. Anyway, all right, question 889. Are there not men who are reduced to beggary through their own fault? And the spirits say, undoubtedly there are, but if a sound moral education had taught them to practice the law of God, they would not have fallen into the excesses which have caused their ruin. It is mainly through the generalization of such education that the improvement of your globe will be ultimately accomplished. Well, okay. This only takes one set of circumstances into account. I mean, when it happened to me, it's not because I was lacking a moral education. When my husband refused to leave a will, and we were kicked out of our home, and then I went to see my friend who literally was giving us a summer place in the Bay, and he had been hit by a car like right before we got there and broke almost every bone in his body. I got there and he was in a coma for 3 weeks. Get there, there's blood everywhere. I mean, that's not a lack of my moral education. It was perhaps a lack of moral education in his part, because I was going to help him make his life better. We had set up an arrangement where I was going to cook and clean for him, and he was going to give us a place to live, and it was going to be awesome. But I have a feeling that he was morally bankrupt, and God saved me, made us homeless temporarily, and we were okay after that. But I mean, that's just one example. But I've met people who definitely their excesses were drugs and alcohol abuse, of course, but also I've met Vietnam veterans from the war who just could not handle life. Their PTSD was so bad that they could not get a job, they could not get any help financially. Their families abandoned them because they couldn't handle with the bad emotions of that. I've met people who lost everything through just bad management of businesses or evil landlords. Earthquake, I was put out of my ass by an earthquake, an act of God. I didn't feel safe living in my home. It was very scary. And right after that, the landlords are like taking back the house because they had to make a lot of repairs because there's massive cracks in the walls. Foundation was good, but I was scared that that fireplace was about to go. So, I mean, there were some things. there were some things. I mean, for real, there was some, and there's a lot of reasons why people are homeless. It's not just based on this one thing that they say. I have some friends, God bless them, this man and woman in Morocco, they had 3 children who ended up in wheelchairs. They all had the same disease. And they can't work. They can't fend for themselves. They barely have any ability to push themselves in the wheelchair even. And they don't have, and when the father died, there was like no money for left. The father died, the mother couldn't work. She was very, very old, like in her late 60s, early 70s, in very ill health. And then when she died, they were just left in wheelchairs in their home in like a rocky path. They couldn't even like go up and down their own driveway in their wheelchair. It was like completely ridiculous. And they asked me to do a charity for them, which I did. And then the sister got embarrassed and said, forget it. And I guess she was going to marry a man that was going to take care of them all and kind of become a slave to the man. You know, she didn't love him. She didn't know what was going to happen to her, but she thought it'd be better than begging the world for money to help them. You know, and I respect their opinion of that. It was a very hard thing for me to do. It was hard for me to see them in that position, and I just pray for them every day. And the country of Morocco does not provide nursing or, you know, healthcare workers for people in this situation. You know, there's no social programs there. So I did a change.org petition years ago. I saw it the other day. I was like, whoa, I looked at my name. Every now and again I do that, and I saw that was still there. So you could probably go sign it still. But, you know, people become homeless for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes it's just like the end of the lease, and then there's no other apartments available because refugees are coming in. Lack of jobs, lack of housing. That's happening in Ecuador right now. In Cuenca, you can't get a job, even if you are an Ecuadorian in good standing. I mean, if you're white, they just say you're white. White people have money. We have to give it to Ecuadorians, and it's like ridiculously racist. But that's just the general sentiment. My son put out 100 resumes. He hand delivered 100 resumes dressed in a suit with a tie. I mean, he looked really nice, and he's got experience. He has had jobs. Not one person would hire him. And they all said the same thing. That's what they said. It's crazy. You know, and unless we start our own business, we're not going to make it here. Unless we work online and start our own business. Those are the only ways we can make money. We can't have jobs to get hired by someone here. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, there's like reasons why people get homeless. It's not just what they assumed here, but is it 92, 93? Yeah, 92% of this manuscript is real, is right, or attributable to what's going on in the world today. It's accurate, 92% still. Back in the day when this was written, I'm sure it was 100%, but because circumstances change, people change, events have occurred since 160, almost 163 years. Yeah, it's crazy. But I love it. I love this book. This is an amazing, incredible book. I'm going to keep on going next week with part 27 next week, starting with maternal and filial affection with question 890. So we're going to get to that next week. I hope you enjoyed this very long episode today. Hopefully it won't be as long tomorrow, but I just had to get out all of the stuff going on in the cosmos. My God, so much going on. Anyway, I love you guys. I love you so much. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, favoriting, whatever it's called on the app that you use. Also for putting your in your calendars, Google Calendar or whatnot. Maybe you have an iCalendar. Whatever you have, thank you for marked. Oh my God, I'm so tired. I don't even know what I'm saying. marking it. That's the word. Oh my God. That took a while. Thank you for marking in your calendar July 1st as the day in which, hopefully, if you like my podcast, that you will vote for me in the People's Choice Awards. And I will give you all the information as we approach that day, because it's only open from the 1st to the 31st of July. My God, once in a while I lose my words like that. It is a result of my having been struck by lightning that went through my brain and also went through my heart. And created havoc in my body, but that's what happens when you tell God you're going to work for Him and you will be a channel and instrument of His divine will and peace, and that He may act through your body. And sometimes all that karma gets knocked out just like that, all at once. That's how I became a lightning shaman. So every now and again I lose words, and I'm sure it's just part to do with that. The lightnings went through the right side of my brain, possibly through part of the left side, the logic center's left side, but my creativity still remains intact. So it's really crazy. It might have been maybe more in the middle of my brain, but sometimes I have a hard time with expressing myself in a I guess quick fashion. Sometimes I will pause a little bit too long, I guess, or sometimes my words, I lose them or I'll say the wrong word. So please bear with me, guys, if you're brand new to the show. And there's a lot new listeners, so welcome aboard. I'm so glad to have you guys. And I love all of you. I love everybody on the planet. And I'm grateful that we're all in this together. Just remember, the mean people that suck, it's only because they're sleeping, not because they're spiritually awake and aware. People who are mean to you, it's because they are not aware, because they're asleep still. Because when people wake up spiritually, they're like, oh my God, they feel so bad. Then they have the awareness. So don't allow the bad people to affect you. And it's not a vile, perverse world like it was 163 years ago. I'm happy to tell you that there's a lot more good than bad in the world right now. A lot of people came here for this ascension, so a lot of people were already spiritually advanced when they arrived. So thank God for that. We're getting better. Things are moving quite rapidly along. Anyway, I just want to thank you for everything you guys do. Thank you in advance for liking and subscribing, like I said, but also for forwarding and sharing this with the newly awakened ones that you know, people in your spiritual groups on Facebook, and especially on Instagram. I had 26 new people since yesterday following me on Instagram when I started my new posting. So go check those out at Mermaid Girl 888 on the Insta. I hope you guys enjoy the quotes. I just want to inspire everyone all the time. That's what I'm here for. It's why I'm on the planet. So hopefully it's working. I'll be back tomorrow, you guys, with all unique and original programming, just like always. But until then, I'm going to sign off with peace and joy and the high vibes of the holy fifth dimension. Until next time, guys, peace. Metaphysical Soul Speak is run on sponsors and listener support. This means listeners like you. If you are so inclined to support my efforts and my little podcast, please visit me at anchor.fm/metaphysical and pledge an amount of your choosing today. Thank you.